times for the folks that hate me. 2 times for the folks saying that ain't nothing, cause they don't know how they gon' face me. 3, 5 in the blood I'm facing. 4 times blessed, ain't no change. 5 times.
So man, obviously, me and your son are close friends. But first, actually, the school I went to for my first year of college is your alma mater, Georgia State University.
Oh yeah, G-State.
So, how was it, back 50 years ago? The campus there.
It does feel like it was decades ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Georgia State was completely different back then, man. Like at that time, they only had one dorm. It was all the way down, like you actually had to get on MARTA to get to the dorm. It was that far away from campus. I said, you look at it now, it's the largest university in the state.
All right.
Yeah, got dorms, it takes up half of downtown, so it's completely different. I mean, even just the city has changed since I went to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, you know what I'm saying, we gotta call you Dr. Kenya, you know what I'm saying? So how did that come about, man, coming to doctor?
Man, that is a story in itself. Like, I was always interested in science, math, but when I went to Georgia State, I was actually a business major. So I got a bachelor's in business administration, worked in higher ed, even started a school, worked at several schools. But in my free time, a lot of stuff that I did was actually studying, understanding the body, understanding plants. It was always health related. Looking back on it, I was always doing it, just didn't know that I was doing it, officially. But I had the great fortune or misfortune of getting laid off. I was working. This is probably around 2008. Got laid off, and so I remember actually sitting on a park bench. It was before I called my wife at the time, before I called my parents or anybody. I remember sitting there with literally a pink sheet, and I told myself all right. Am I going to just look for another job, or am I going to, wait and figure out if I want to do something else? And I told myself I'll give myself 90 days to figure it out. I wasn't going to rush into just getting a job just to get a job.
Yeah.
And so, I think giving myself that space of just saying, all right, I'm going to take my time and actually figure out what I want to do, that opened it all up. And so within that first month, I met one of my first mentors. And he actually was teaching a Tai Chi and a Qigong class.
That's what?
Yeah.
Martial arts?
Martial arts, man. Yeah. Martial arts, really more the healing arts, but very much tied to the martial arts. I had always wanted to go to a Tai Chi class. I had seen a demonstration before and thought it was dope. And then, he was doing Qigong, which I had never heard of, but I said, all right, well, let me check it out. Qigong.
I gotta do my research.
Yeah, man. Qigong is about the movement of Qi or energy in the body.
Okay, I heard that.
Yep. You got the physical aspect, then you also have the invisible aspect in terms of the energetic part of the body. And so that was, again, not even knowing that was moving me down a path, but yeah, I started taking the classes, and the rest is history. The teacher actually was teaching a reflexology class where they actually manipulate and work on the feet. And he actually told me, he said, I got this class, you should come check it out. If you're interested, we'll work it out. But if you're not, don't lose anything. But I got a feeling you're good with your hands.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. I just thought he was trying to sell me on the class that he was teaching, right? And yeah, I went to the class, and within the first 30 minutes, I knew, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I was all for it. And what happened was that I completed the whole reflexology, foot reflexology course. And then with me asking him questions, just being wide-eyed, wanting to learn everything at once, he actually ended up teaching 3 or 4 other classes. I ended up taking all those courses, got certifications. And so once I got into that point, it was all right, well, what do I do now? Now that I've taken all these certifications, how do I do it professionally? And that's what opened the door for me to actually go to massage school. The massage school that I went to was owned by a chiropractor. Several of the teachers there were chiropractors. And so then, the next step for me after massage school is I ended up going to chiropractic school. And that is how you end up with Dr. Kenya. That's the short of it.
I don't know if I was expecting that answer. I'm gonna be right back in the camera. Hold on.
All right.
Got my notes over here. But I don't know if that was the exact answer I was expecting, but that's a kind of amazing part of life to me, because especially when you're becoming a man or you're growing up into an adult, you know, you're choosing your profession, you know, you gotta kind of be all into that. And if you went back and probably told yourself you'd be doing what you're doing now, you'd be like, what? You know what I'm saying? But you getting laid off turned to you finding like what you really were meant to do.
Nah, I'm with you on that. That's kind of looking back on it, because you probably seen it before, where you see somebody sometimes and like they know early on like what they want to do. They're like, yep, I want to become, you know, a veterinarian, and then everything they do is about animals, and like they're going for it. And like I've always admired people like that because they know exactly what they want to do. I don't know if I ever was like that until recently, that I actually knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Even down to like looking at artists. Like if you watch like a singer or an artist and you watching them, how they going through it, like, you know, that's what they came here to do, right? Like they couldn't have been doing nothing else. They passionate about it, like how they go about preparing to do it. And so I always admire people like that, and I always wish, you know, I could find something to where I was passionate enough to where it helps me, but then it also is some type of way I can help other people. So yeah, it was late for me. I was a late bloomer.
Yeah, it goes like that sometimes.
Yeah, because sometimes you got to mature and you got to learn enough to actually be ready for whatever that calling is. And I definitely, when I was 18, 24, like I definitely wasn't ready. I definitely needed to meet like all the mentors I met, like all the teachers that I met, in order for me to become the person that was prepared to even go through school and learn the things that I learned.
Right, no, facts. And not only are you a doctor now, but you started making your own health supplements. So what kind of led you into wanting to do that? Yeah,
and now that was one of those things that I didn't even know I actually knew how to do it. Like several of my mentors, like they were herbalists, they were masters in their own right. Like I actually had a mentor that made medicines from essential oils, and which was dope because normally when you talk about essential oils, most people think about like aromatherapy, but they don't think about it in terms of essential oils for healing, where it's basically plant medicine, and it's a science that is, been lost. But yeah, he was actually, he would use the essential oils, he would use like astrology. So if a person had like a health ailment, he would get like their date of birth, the time that they were born, he would actually get like their birth name. And then based off of the ailment, he would do it based off of when the person came here, where they were actually born, the time that they were actually born, and actually put together like essential oils. He would give you like a regimen in terms of diet modification. And I got to see like some amazing stuff where people had all kinds of like ailments to where, within weeks, do a 180. And so having mentors that were doing things like that, it was dope. It wasn't just something that, I saw on the news or read about. Like I saw people doing it. Had another mentor who was like a spiritual guide for me, seeing him actually utilize medicine and actually helping people. And so I learned about it from the mentors, being around them, reading about it. And what happened was that my mom went to the doctor. She had arthritis in the knee. And so, the doctors were talking about surgery, and we're talking like almost 20 years ago. And so I said, okay, well, before we actually, I'm not saying don't get the surgery, but before we do that, like there's tons of things we can do before we get to that point. And so that was the first time I actually put herbs together, actually made a combination of herbs, had my mom take it. A couple of days later, she was like, you know what? Like my knee is feeling a lot better. Like the inflammation went down, the pain went down. And I was like, oh yeah, that actually worked. And so my mom was taking it. I had some other family members because they saw what it did for my mom.
All right.
Then she told people at her job, and naturally people are like, well, do you have something for this? Or you have something for that? And that's when it was one of those that I wasn't even aware that I knew as much as I knew, but it's one of those things when you're sitting at the feet of, giants, like you're gonna pick up stuff along the way, whether you know it or not. And again, just like I didn't know that this is what I was gonna be doing, like I also didn't know that I could actually help people doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And so one supplement turned into another. And really it's not even, I call it supplements, but really what it is just going back to what like our grandparents did, our great grandparents did, where somebody was sick, they would go out into the woods, they would actually pull weeds, different plants, and actually make plant medicine. So they would take it, they would make teas, they would make tonics, and then you would take it, and based off of the constituents in the plants, it would actually help heal the body. And so all it is kind of a remix on like what our ancestors always did, utilizing plant medicine or earth medicine. And so one of the things that I did is I just took the plant medicine, we dehydrate it, meaning that we take all the water out of it so that way it lasts longer, and then we powdered it to be able to put it in vegetarian capsules. Like here in the States, nobody does bitters. So anything that's not sweet, not salty, if it's bitter, people won't take it. And that's one of the things that led me to even putting it into the capsules that here in the States. Now, if you go in the Caribbean or somewhere, like they do bitters, they do tonics, you know, even overseas, like even people understanding like the importance of fasting, that type of thing. But here in the States, we don't do it so much. And so, like what we do with Simple Temple, which is the supplement company, is really just
that's your supplement company.
Mm-hmm. It's actually called Simple Temple.
Simple Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Like the body is the temple, and to maintain the temple is very simple. But you have to actually understand where do we actually, you know, the body comes from, and then how do you actually replenish the body.
So you got the whole motto with it.
Say it again.
Yeah, that's like the whole motto with the brand.
There you go.
So I know you had the wordplay. That's where KO Code get the bars.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, every couple minutes I'm gonna just check. And
No,
make
that's
sure,
cool. That's cool.
Recording. You know, if any of y'all want to be a professional recorder or make sure my camera recording, tap in. But
there we go.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you were speaking about like supplements. Like there's a part of me that used to kind of feel like certain things are like BS or like the way they'll describe it. But it's an aspect of like, there's an aspect to me of like, and I know people probably think, if I thought that way, people probably think the same way, like, oh, you're gonna take this supplement, it's gonna heal you, like that's not real. But I think there's a certain aspect of like, things that come from our earth are like there for a reason. Like we're kind of intertwined with that.
Very
so a
much
lot of
so.
the stuff that can heal us is already here, like just around us. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah, no, I'm following you. You know, and that's a real concern. And to be honest with you, I was the same way. Like I wasn't a big supplement person because I was very clear, just based from readings that I had done, that most of the supplements that people take from the store, it ends up coming right back through when they go to the bathroom, right?
Right.
But the issue is that it wasn't so much the supplements, it's about the source. Where does the supplements come from, right? If it is something that is synthetic, made in a lab, well, the body isn't designed to actually absorb it, right? Because it isn't even so much of like what you put in, it's what you actually absorb. But if you're actually utilizing like earth medicine, plants, we're talking mushrooms, that type of thing, well, what happens is that the body comes from the earth. And so like I grew up in the South, went to church, that type of thing. And so one of the things that it talks about, like in the Christian Bibles, it talks about that like God molded man from clay, meaning clay coming from the earth, and he blew the breath of life. And so that, just with that alone, it actually tells you that there's two aspects to the person, right? There's the physical aspect in terms of what comes from the clay, and then there's the breath of life. So there's a material and an immaterial aspect to the human being. In order to replenish that physical part that comes from the earth, then we should go back from which it came, right? And so simple, right? But when you look at it, we're never actually taught, or nobody even makes that connection for us to where we know that, you know, if we want to replenish the body, whether the body is ill and then we've got to give it extra stuff in order to get it back right, or just to maintain it, that's basically how you do it. And so a lot of herbs and mushrooms, they're concentrated in terms of having certain minerals, certain nutrients that actually helps to build the body back up, especially when we have health challenges. And so knowing that's the whole premise of what Simple Temple comes from. We don't use any synthetic anything, so that when people do take our supplements within the first week, like they know there's a difference. It isn't like, oh man, maybe I'm gonna take it for a couple of more weeks and see how it goes. Like no, they know within the first week. And so now when people actually see the effects of actually utilizing like earth medicine, well, now they know that, okay, when you want to talk to them about maybe exercise and making sure that they're sleeping, making sure that they're hydrating the body right, even switching up some dietary things, like people can hear now because they've already seen step 1. Now they can listen to you with step 2 and 3.
All right. So I got to ask you then, like, when it comes to you and your mentality towards this business, like, how do you go about testing and, you know, making sure like it's as accurate as possible and it actually works?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So what we do is like, one, because most of the supplements came from either family members or my mother having some type of ailment, and then the supplements were put together that way. Well, first and foremost, if I wouldn't give it to my mother or give it to somebody that I care about, I'm not going to give it to somebody that I don't know. So that alone lets you know that in terms of the care that I put into it, even consulting with other people, making sure that everything is formulated properly, that's there. Like, two, we actually utilize, like, usually we do like tests where we'll actually have people utilize the supplements, and that's a long process because you have to make sure that if they are taking any medications, there's not any reactions or that they actually can do both at the same time. If they aren't, to make sure that they're actually taking it exactly the way that we told them that it needs to be taken. So that way, if they don't get results, then we know that's what it came from. Right. And so usually it takes a good year or two before we actually even release like one of the supplements. Like, we've got to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it actually works the way that we think it should work.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Now, being a chiropractor, to kind of move, how long have you been doing that?
Oh man, let's see. I've been a chiropractor, a little over 8 years now.
8 years?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess I'll have a two-part question. Is one, what is like the most common problems you see in there? And two, like over time, has there like been any kind of change in more this newer generation? You know, more recently, been a change in problems or certain things? Okay,
so good question. So make sure I answer both because you gave me a two-part. Yeah. So in my office, like we see people from A to Z. Like, I've seen patients from 3 months old all the way up to 97. So chiropractic can help just about anyone. You have chiropractors who focus on like pediatric, where they work on babies and little kids. You have sports chiropractic. You have all kinds of like nuances or specialties within chiropractic. Like, my chiropractic practice is a general practice. So, we see everything from neck and shoulder pain, headaches, low back pain, and sciatica. It can run the gambit. I've even had like seniors who had knee issues that we before we even get to the knee, we actually examine the spine, make sure the pelvis is in alignment. And before we even get to actually checking the knee, just having that alignment perfect, all of a sudden the knee pain goes away. And so that's probably the most common things that we see in office, but also if someone's in a motor vehicle accident, accidents at work, that type of thing, slip and falls, like we also see that in office too. So yeah, we see a whole gambit of things in the office. Now you asked me a second part. Like, more recently, or over time as you worked there, has there been like a change in anything, or it's the same? Yeah. Because my bad to cut you off. I feel like even some of the stuff can be dietary too. Oh, very much so. So I'll give you an example of like low back pain, right? And that's one of the reasons why, like, when people come into our office on the initial visit, like we do, an exam, we do a consultation, so we can actually have an idea of like past medical issues, that type of thing. But something as simple as someone having kidney issues, right? Kidneys are inflamed, it can present as low back pain. But if you don't ask those questions on the front end, you're assuming that it can be the spine, you're assuming it's the muscles, the soft tissues, when really it's actually something a little more deeper, where we're talking about like the visceral organs or like the kidneys, right? Yeah. And so that is one of those things, like every patient that comes in our office, whether they're like, I don't have any issues, I just want to get cracked up. And it's like, all right, well, and that's cool too, but it's still, everybody that comes in office, we need to be very clear like what we're doing. Like, if we're going to take any x-rays, we do all of that on the initial, so we have a very good idea and we're not just guessing or assuming things are a certain way. Right. But yeah, most people, I said, when they come in, we want to know exactly what's going on, what their past history is, what's happening currently. Are they taking certain medications? Because even side effects, right, can present as pain in certain parts of the body sometimes, right? And so having that, doing like a thorough exam on the front end saves us and saves the patients on the back end. All right. Okay, that makes sense. Y'all thorough with it. All right, man, another check. We good? Yeah. So, I definitely got to ask you, man, you got any crazy stories? Anybody coming in with just like crazy injury? Like, what is the probably craziest one you could think of? Like, the first thing that comes to mind is I probably was maybe a chiropractor for 1 or 2 years. And this is probably what let me know that I was actually a doctor. Not so much like graduating, passing, board exams, that type of thing. But I was 2 years in. A guy came into the office, had an injury at work, and so they sent him to come to the office that I worked at. At that office, they had chiropractors, they had orthopedic doctors, there were multiple different, physician assistants in the office. And so, he's talking to me and again, doing a thorough exam, making sure that you ask questions. And so as he's talking, things weren't adding up. Even when I would ask him the same questions, wasn't quite adding up. And so, after we did it, I did the examination and then watched like looking for some neurological things, looking at motor control. And I was like, you know what? Before we actually do any adjustments, I'm going to actually have you go to the ER because something's not right. The guy goes, don't hear from him the rest of the week, doesn't call back, doesn't say anything. I want to say it was like maybe that Monday when I came back in, the guy was there, but he was there with his girlfriend. Come to find out, he had a brain lesion. And so when he got hurt at work, it wasn't because he wasn't.
What's a leisure?
A lesion?
A lesion?
Lesion. So imagine that, let's just say a bump. So say if, the muscle should look one way and you have a lesion, well, it starts to press on other structures, on blood vessels, on nerves, and starts to cause issues. So he had a brain lesion. They went in, did a procedure. And that's the reason why, because that's the reason he was having the issues that he was having. Like, for instance, like I was telling you, stuff wasn't adding up. When he walked through the door, he actually bumped into the door on the way in. And I was like, something ain't right.
Right.
But, with him having that brain lesion, his girlfriend came and was like, I want to thank you because, he had went to the ER. He came to our office. The work just sent him away and said, come back with a note so you can come back. And it was one of those things they're thinking like, oh, well, he just fell, or it was just, they even sent him to the hospital, even take a drug test because they thought that might have been it. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, again, doing a thorough exam before not just assuming that, okay, if he says that his neck's bother him or his back's bother him, you go in and just doing a chiropractic adjustment. It was at that moment I said, okay, following the process, doing things in a certain way. That was maybe the first time that I actually felt like, okay, I'm actually doing a doctor thing outside of just having the title, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna take one cut just to make sure everything sounds good. All right, so with all that chiropractor talk and everything, I definitely gotta ask you, what are 3 things you feel like everyone should implement in terms of their life right now, whether if it's like movement wise, diet wise, just from your experience?
Oh man, so that's a complex question because now we're trying to fit top three
for like non-negotiable. You know what I'm saying?
Top 3. Well, I got to tell people, I got to say chiropractic care, right? Because I know what it can actually do for not only the body but for the nervous system. The nervous system controls everything, and if there's too much stress on the nervous system, long term, it leads to tons of things. So even if people, have their reservations about going to a chiropractor, it's like going the same way you would go to the dentist, even though you don't have anything wrong. Like going to a chiropractor and getting your spine, your nervous system checked will do wonders. Now, outside of like the chiropractic care, like the physical exercise or physical activity is key. Like a lot of the recent research has said that, working out in the young years affects how the body moves in the older years. So for instance, and I just actually had this whole conversation this week with some patients, like something as simple as osteoporosis. Usually when people get in their older age, especially like females, it used to be that they told people if you had something like osteoporosis, meaning that the bone density is less than it should be. So it should be nice and dense, solid, but it isn't as dense as it should be. Well, what they used to tell people was like, okay, well, take some calcium tablets, right? Well, come to find out, that is not the way that you go about doing it. One of the things that they found out is that somebody is physically active, they're actually doing resistance training, lifting weights, putting stress on the muscles. Well, by putting stress on the muscles, you're also putting it on the bones. The body, because it's divinely designed, knows that it needs to make the bones more dense. Because the bones are dense in the younger years, as we get older and we start to lose density, well, if you've actually built it up in the younger years, even with you losing it over the years, you still have enough density to where the bones aren't brittle and breaking.
I seen a video. It just reminded me of some. I don't remember exactly what they said, but like I've had a friend who's like had an injury kind of ongoing for a while, and like anything bone related, they usually tell you like drink milk, calcium. I've even heard like the bone marrow, like boiling like bone marrow, or like using bone broth and all that, and taking that. But I seen a video, it was talking about like, I think it was an ER or something. He was saying like the cause of most death of older people was just like their bones were too weak and they were too physically inactive. And he said like most people need to be doing some type of strengthening, because you can get to a certain age where I don't know exactly what I'm saying.
No, I'm
it was
following
along
you.
These lines where you get to a certain age where you're just not strong enough to like exist, I guess.
No, that is real. Like they've actually even done tests to where they show like older people going from sitting to standing, and they can actually correlate it to mortality rates, meaning that how much longer or how closer they are to actually not being here. And so if they can go from sitting to standing with no assistance, just go straight up, like it indicates, especially if you actually can do it a certain amount of times in a certain amount of minutes. Then they've also even seen that if you go from sitting to standing and you need assistance, where you kind of do the old person push off using the size of the chair, like that also gives them some data. Or if you go from sitting to standing and you actually need assistance where somebody or something has to actually help you up, that also is correlated in terms of mortality rates. So no, it is definitely real in terms of keeping the body strong, keeping it healthy. Like they've even found out that the muscles aren't just for strength, but the muscles also even help in terms of regulating hormones. And so in terms of things that we don't even think about, in terms of metabolism, in terms of like blood glucose levels, so all diabetics should definitely make sure that they're working out on a regular basis to help regulate the blood glucose levels. But even for like women, when they're going through things like menopause, one of the things that they found out is that in order to reduce a lot of the symptoms of menopause, like physical activity, resistance training helps to balance it out, and so that the symptoms aren't as severe as they normally are. So yeah, it's one of those things to where we think it's just working out or just getting stronger, but no, it actually affects the whole body. So yeah, it has a more systemic effect on the body than just actually making you stronger.
All right. And you already gave 3 or no? You gave 3 for that one question or no?
That was just 2.
That was 2? Okay, you got last one?
Yep, so we talked about the chiropractic care, making sure the nervous system is the way that it needs to be, because again, the nerves control everything. You couldn't move a muscle without the nerves. You couldn't even blink an eye if it wasn't, the nervous system isn't coordinated. Making sure that we are physically active, working out, doing what we need to do. And then I would say that the third thing that, and we've already kind of touched on it, is making sure that we're giving the body proper nutrients. We assume because we eat food that the food has the nutrients that we need in order to power the body. But what happens is that when the body doesn't have the right levels of different nutrients, and when I say nutrients, we're talking about not only vitamins, but we're talking about minerals, we're talking about essential fatty acids, other phytonutrients, just certain things that naturally come from earth-based foods, right? And so, but a lot of us eat processed and ultra-processed foods that taste good, but they aren't high in the nutrients that the body needs in order to do what it needs to do. And so when the body becomes deficient in certain nutrients, we start to have symptoms. Things that, you can just about name any kind of health challenge, any kind of disease process usually comes from the body not having enough of what it needs. And so if you think about the body as a temple or as a house, if you got to rebuild the house, and we're not talking about a house that's dilapidated or fallen down, but if we just think about just a regular house, every once in a while you're gonna need paint, you're gonna need some nails, you're gonna need raw materials in order to keep the house right. You're gonna have to clean up every once in a while. But if you don't have those raw materials, well, what happens? The house starts to fall apart, right?
Right.
And so the same thing with the body. If you aren't giving the body those nutrients that literally come from the earth, because the body comes from the earth, then we start to have issues over time. And so, yeah, a large percentage of like the symptoms and issues that we have come from nutrient deficiencies. Even some of the complications for some of the things that we know, like heart disease, diabetes, even some of the complications that we have for more serious things like CA or cancer, usually comes from the body not having the nutrients that it needs in order to take care of itself.
Your vocabulary on point, man. You know what I'm saying? I gotta give me a dictionary or something.
I apologize, like, man. You know what that is?
Oh, man, I gotta get
that's staying in somebody's classroom for years on end. Yeah.
I'm like, man, here's a couple words. I'm like, huh?
Nah, Now, if I ever do that, man, stop me, please.
Yeah, nah. I understand for most of it, but
now I try to make sure that I do not do that because I know what it feels like where somebody's talking and you're like, yeah, I know you know what you're talking about. I have no clue what you're saying. So now, if I ever do it, yeah, stop me.
I was like, man, but that actually leads. That's perfect. You said that. You said chiropractic, nervous system. Then you said what's the second one?
Exercise, physical activity.
And then you said
I said making sure that we're getting proper nutrients into the body.
Densities, all that, or nutrient deficiencies.
Yep, and that's it. So that means that the foods that we eat, that we're actually eating foods that are rich.
Yeah.
So something as simple as eating what our ancestors ate, right? Some collard greens, some black-eyed peas, stuff that's got nutrients in it versus a bag of chips, whereas potatoes, but doesn't have all the nutrients it needs, got tons of sugar, salt, and then whatever else has been added to it. Because if you think about it, it's weird, but like nobody ever has a conversation, but it's like, okay, so say if we're eating a processed food and it's got all this other stuff where we can't even pronounce it. Well, if it's going into the body, it's actually going to take resources in order for the body to get rid of it, right? Because if it can't use it in order to build the body up, well, it's got to get rid of it. And in order to get rid of it and make sure that you stay alive, it's actually leaching some of those nutrients from the body.
All right.
So not eating right has a huge effect. It isn't just, it's just junk food or it's just that. It actually leaches nutrients that we actually need just for everyday activities.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that again. We're gonna make that a clip. So it's why am I forgetting? It's
the chiropractic care, definitely.
Chiropractic care.
Checking the nervous system.
Exercise.
Physical activity or exercise. And then making sure that we are getting the nutrients into the body that we need. So that's through diet, but then also the supplementation part, to where even if people think they're eating a clean diet, we're assuming that the carrot that we're eating has all the stuff that it needs.
All right.
But the carrot gets all its stuff from the soil, and so if the soil doesn't have it, then the carrot won't have it. And then if you eat the carrot, that means you don't have it, right? And so that is where again, you want to make sure you're getting those nutrients, and instead of just assuming that our food has it, then we make sure we supplement our diet to make sure that we're getting those nutrients. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's actually perfect. We touched on that because that's actually the main thing I wanted to focus on today's episode was food and our, just our whole, food system in America. But I actually want to, touch on like kind of a deeper subject because so far in my podcast, I've avoided giving advice. And for me, like, I would say like, I've definitely, people around me would say I've accomplished things, but like, I wouldn't say I've accomplished nothing to where I'm here to like give advice on this or that. Like, I'm more just been focused on having conversations on different things.
Right.
But there is something that I want to speak on, and you can speak on as well, is like a lot of something real common in our world is like people feeling like, we're going to die, so what's the point of doing this? And, a lot of my focus is a lot of people are already older, they're grown, they're stuck in their ways. So it's like, I'm not here to change anything or tell you to do this. But for a lot of the hopefully younger people that see this, I hope they don't have the mindset of like, like say for instance, the stuff we were talking about, implementing, getting more nutrients, getting exercise. I hope they don't have the mindset where like, I'm gonna die, this don't matter. Instead of living the best life they can and being as healthy and comfortable as possible, you know what I'm trying to say? So like, what do you think are some things where even just the simplest things that people can implement? Because we could be saying all this stuff and people just, you know what, that's right, and just keep scrolling, keep doing what they're doing. But what's some like simple things, that you think people could do at the least? Like just maybe start drinking a little more water, or adding a little bit more of this, or like doing this to help better their lifestyle. Yeah. Like realistically, because So
you asking some loaded questions, man. That's a deep question because before you even get to you should do this, don't do that type of thing. Like it's a consciousness thing, right? Like you got to see yourself in a certain light. Like you can't say that you love yourself and that you've got dreams and aspirations for the future, but the things you're doing presently aren't going to get you towards those ends, right? Like something as simple if somebody says that, I'm going to school to get this degree so I can get this job, and I want to have a family. I want to do this and this, but something as simple as the food you're eating are not going to allow your body to maintain itself to where you can actually enjoy those things that you actually said are the goals.
All right.
The reason I say it's a consciousness thing too is that, like, if you actually say that you love yourself, then you would do everything that would be beneficial to something that you said that you love, right? Whether you're talking about it's a family member, whether you're talking about it's a friend, or even talking about yourself. If you think about it just in terms of self-love, then I wouldn't actually do anything that would actually hurt or harm myself. And so now when you talk about junk food, it's bigger than just junk food, right? It's like, okay, if I say I'm loving myself, like me eating this thing, is that actually saying that I actually love myself? And if it ain't saying that, it's probably saying something else. And now you got to sit with yourself and ask, like, why would I, if I say that I'm attempting to do X, Y, and Z, why am I doing this thing that's not going to get me towards that end?
Exactly.
Right. If someone says that, they want to start a business and that they're serious about this, but you see them doing something that's not moving them towards that goal. So now we got to ask the question, like, if you're trying to go right, but you're doing these things going towards the left, we got to make sure that there's some congruency between what's said and what's actually done.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest thing, is that even having a plan for the future, like having a evidence of like a mission in life. If you know that you're actually moving towards something, it's hard to say, well, I'm going to die anyway, right? Because it's like, well, what kind of ride is it going to be then before you even get to that point, to the destination? Yeah. So, we're talking about quality of life, because none of us know how long we've got here, right? None of us know whether it's tomorrow, whether it's going to be 20 years. But while you're here, you want to actually enjoy the ride, right?
I gotta ask a great question, man.
Go ahead.
So like, you think, right, if you were to tell, let's say, people, however much people, like, tell them you have 10 days left to live, you think they would like continue to live a healthy lifestyle? They'd just be like, I'm gonna just eat ice cream every day, like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah,
you think, like, that's a hard thing to gauge, because it's like people don't know how long they got, but it's like certain things people do can come from like a genuine aspect of them just doing it because they know it's the right thing, or they want to do it for themselves, or they're only doing it because they know like they're going to do this in the future. But if they knew like, oh, this is all I got, they're just going to be like, F it, I'm gonna. Like, what do you think? You think people would just...
You know what, that I'm not sure of, because now I'm trying to speak on everybody as if everybody's the same. Like, if somebody knew that they only had a certain amount of time, like, what would they do? I think that they will find out, and other people will find out what they actually value. As somebody may be working and they think it's about the money, but when you know you don't have enough time, you'll find out real quick what people actually value, what they're gonna do with those last few days, where they're gonna put their time and energy.
I like that answer.
Yeah. What would you do?
I don't know. I will say though, because I was gonna say this anyway, actually, but like certain experiences I've had, they kind of like I feel like a big thing, right, is if you need to implement certain things in your life. A lot of people say you need to be disciplined. You need to like cut out this, cut out that. And on the flip side, other people will be like, oh, well, let's say I'm eating more greens, or I'm not trying to eat this or that. That's boring. Like, I'm tired of doing that. I think a big thing for me was finding enjoyment in like the things I needed to do. So it doesn't feel like, oh, it's so boring. Like, actually like wanting to do it and like finding enjoyment in it. Cause like I never spoke on it, but like the whole year, 2022, like this is just one random thing. Like 2022, I didn't drink no juice, no soda. The whole year, I only drank water and tea. And I was 15 years old, and I just went a whole year only water and tea. And at first it was like, I see a nice little Sprite, see the apple juice, I'm like, damn.
Especially if it's cold.
Cold in the fridge, my sister's drinking, I'm like, damn, I just want me a cup. But I'm like, over time it just was normal. Like, and it's crazy because like stuff like this is like, you might hear someone say it, but like, you gotta experience it. But like, I remember when I had finally like drank a cup of juice again, I was like, it tastes so sweet. Like, it wasn't the same. Like, I was just used to drinking water. I'm
Taste
like,
buds reset.
Yeah, I'm like, nah, this too sweet. Like, I'm not even rocking with it. And it got to a point where I was just used to, like, I was cool with just drinking water. So I think, like, being able to, like, know you need to do something, but not making it a bore, like making it like, oh, it's so depressing. Like, if you can enjoy it and it's good for you, I think is the way to do stuff. So I feel like now that's kind of my answer, because it's like, okay, if I had 10 days, I don't even mind doing the stuff that I need to do. So I wouldn't change it, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I just probably would go do some crazy stuff or do some stuff I wanted to do as well.
You got a bucket list?
Do I got a bucket list? I would have to write it out, but I probably, got some thoughts.
It's like, where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Who am I gonna see?
I think I got one place in mind I could take a trip to.
Like you said, you'll find out what you value when you got a short time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's facts. But that was that question. But yeah, to get into the main topic of today. Actually, okay, I'll speak on some of my perspective before I even ask the question, because I obviously got to first leave the U.S. at like 12 years old to go to Dubai, and going there, living in the UAE, Middle East, not the U.S.
Yeah.
Immediately, the foods aren't processed. Of course, in a Muslim country, it's halal meats. They're not adding all this stuff to it.
Completely different than here, right?
Completely different. And I remember like hearing my sister be like, oh yeah, I ate McDonald's and my stomach didn't hurt. And like when we lived in the US, we didn't eat McDonald's. Like it was like a good 10-year stretch I didn't eat McDonald's. And she ate McDonald's in Dubai, and it's like, it was good. And I remember like we would like go to McDonald's and it was like normal. And that's not something we would do in the US. And just going to the grocery store, like everything, you know what I'm saying? Not having that worry was, completely different. But yeah, I mean, that's most countries. Even when I went to Spain for a little bit, their food is better, their meats are better, all of that. And then you got the US, where it's so for me, it's like there's so much things that go into like how the US has got to where it is. It's hard to really just.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question to you. Why do you think it's different?
It's definitely, you definitely have to like point out the what is it? I don't know if I'm using the right word. Maybe like capitalism, or like the profit of it, because it's not coming from a place, or the food production, or the people that are making the money. I wouldn't say it's this simple, but it's like, how is it? It's not coming from a place of, oh, I'm worried about us having the healthiest foods. It's how I can make the most money without spending the most money.
There you go.
And I can make multiple of less. Or even like now, I'm seeing these huge chicken sandwiches, these steroid pump chicken. Is like, but it's like people eating them. It's like, you got to eat. So it's not even really like, it's a problem, but like life just keeps going on. And also, I had to know, I'm thankful I ain't been using this, I'm remembering stuff. But yeah, like even like, okay, if we were to skip forward in this conversation, like, okay, if I asked a solution, right? One solution I hear people talk about is farms, right? Starting to plant our own stuff. But then the flip side of that is, people gonna be like, that's not realistic. Or you could say it, but people gonna hear that and be like, okay, that's a great idea, but they're not gonna actually start trying to plant stuff. So it's like, there's a lot of problems, especially with food. And we just spoke on how that is everything. Like you can literally have a serious disease and it start from a nutrient deficiency, like you said. But we literally know like our food, some of our food is poison, some of our food is processed, and we just regularly eat it. And it's like, it's a hard thing, because it's like, it's not even in our control really. Yeah.
Well, people will say that it's not realistic to do farming or gardening. But if you think about it, my thought process is always like, okay, what did people before us do? Because sometimes we get caught up in what's happening now, and we assume things have always been that way. But it's like, okay, well, what did our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents do? And out of necessity, like they had to garden, they had to grow their food. Like no one can just go to a grocery store and purchase everything. no such thing as fast food back then, where you didn't get your food through a window in a building from people that you don't even know. So people had to actually grow their own food. They actually had to raise their own food. And so because of that, they wouldn't put stuff into their food because they know that they're going to be consuming it, right?
Exactly.
Like nobody's going to poison their own soil. Nobody's going to poison their own animals and then consume it, right? Mm-hmm. So the one thing that people saying like, oh, we can't do that or it's not realistic, like that may be one of the solutions to helping with a lot of the issues. And it may be one of those things that people may be forced to have to go back to that.
For sure.
Because it doesn't take, 5 acres in order to grow enough food for your family. Like the backyard, a balcony, people can actually do it. We actually had an event at our office. It was a plant swap event, and that's what we did. We brought in farmers, we brought in like gardeners, like some people just talking about plant care, like home plants, just so people knew that it's realistic and that you don't need a bunch of space. Mm-hmm. And one of the ladies, that's exactly what she talked about, to where if somebody lived in an apartment and they just had a balcony, how you can have hanging plants, you can actually have like a stacked or like almost like a bookcase where you can actually grow things. And so it's like, when people say it's not realistic, it is very much realistic, and there's people that's actually doing it.
Right.
And it doesn't require that you go out there for 5 hours a day to actually get it done.
Yeah. No, I definitely, let me make sure we good. I definitely think it's one of them things where, like, I'm going to have to start, or someone's going to have to start it for people to actually start doing it. Like, we can speak on it as much as, we want, but people are not going to do it until, everything is trend based, everything is trend.
Well, you start small. I said you literally get a pot, grow some tomatoes or something along those lines, and once you see that, then you can't say that it's not doable, right? If once you do a small part of it, then you can do it on a bigger scale if you can do it on a small scale.
Right.
But it all comes down to consciousness. Whatever you tell yourself you can or can't do, you're right.
Facts.
Yeah.
And I'll say too, like, it doesn't even have to be your whole life. You could just start planting a little bit and just having like some extra stuff that you made, some extra vegetables you made. It doesn't have to be all the food. And then if you want to like only eat the stuff you make, you can do that, but you could just start implementing it just to have, more foods that are natural or that you actually made. But
exactly.
It also makes me think about how I've been hearing about, maybe I was talking to you about it, how like seeds can be controlled now. So that's just something where it's like, even it might get to a point where we're trying to do that too late because they didn't control all the seeds, and now they're taking the seeds out of these fruits and stuff where it's like, man.
Yeah, you just hit on another crazy topic. So you have what they call terminator seeds, to where the seeds don't reproduce themselves. So that means every year you got to go back to somebody else in order to actually grow your fruit each year. Where before, I said you would grow the plant, you would take those seeds, and now you can harvest it again. You can grow it and harvest it for another season, which is diabolical because that means somebody had to go in and genetically modify it to where it didn't do what it naturally did, right?
Crazy. Crazy.
So that is crazy, but the even crazier part is that anything that can't reproduce itself can't help you reproduce yourself. Because if we eat those, like we were talking before, like the soil has to have the nutrients in order for the plant to have it, in order for you to eat it, and then for you to reproduce yourself. And so if we're eating foods that don't have seeds or can't reproduce itself, then that means that it's lacking in some of the things that we need in order for us to actually reproduce ourselves. Like we never actually think about certain things because, again, the body is divinely designed and it does what it's supposed to do. We never think about like how the body actually makes new cells. We never think about how the body actually makes like stomach acid. Well, it's got to have those raw materials in order for it to do some of the processes. But if we're not giving the body that stuff, now all of a sudden we start to have issues where they say that, oh, you don't have enough stomach acid, or the body's lacking in this. When really what it is that at the root of it, the body's lacking in those nutrients. And so it's diabolical that somebody for profit has modified the plants in order for you to have to come back to them. But even worse, because now the quality of the food that you were eating is completely different.
It's crazy. All right. Yeah, this is this is like something you can like speak on from even more experience too, because I'm talking about more agriculture, farming, you know, because obviously your late brother, rest in peace, you know, he was an actual farmer. So,
man.
When you speak on that in just America, I mean, first you can touch on like, you know, farming and what that details and how it can benefit us and why he wanted to do that. Which, yeah, you can.
Yeah, so my brother, Farmer Chris, like he was an interesting individual, man. Like he went against the grain from when we were young, man. Like he was actually like one of the first vegetarians that I actually knew. And so we're talking like we're like middle school, high school age. And if you can think, like you said, I went to Georgia State 50 years ago, so you can imagine.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, there was no vegetarian restaurants. There weren't all these, you know, cooking shows, cookbooks.
Yeah.
So I remember like, you know, like there being like tension in my household because he was like, he don't eat meat anymore.
And what state y'all was in?
Now, we were here in Georgia at that time.
Yeah, you down south, man. You
Yeah,
gotta get
man.
some barbecue or something.
Yeah. So like something like some collard greens, you know, my mom might put, you know, like turkey neck or something in it. He's like, I can't eat it because it got meat in it. Man, you talking about like watching the tension. But, you know, now looking back on it, like he was way ahead of his time, man. You know, to where like he would have to go to like Taco Bell and eat like bean burritos because there was no restaurants like it is now. Now, you know, you can literally type in vegetarian restaurant and
they got the little slutty vegan and different places.
Yeah, and it was nothing like that, man. Back in like the 90s, no. But yeah, he was way ahead of his time. And so, you know, that was him being a vegetarian like when we were in like middle school and high school age. And then fast forward and he becomes a gardener, becomes a farmer. And it's like, yeah, before we were even aware of it, like he was already on that path. And so he understood that, you know, if you want to keep the body healthy, you got to eat earthbound foods. And so a lot of like me even having a full understanding of like farming, understanding like the importance of gardening, like actually growing your own food came from
supplements.
There you go. It came from having conversations with people like him that were, you know, they were already light years ahead of where I was in terms of having like that consciousness of understanding that if you don't take care of your health, then your health don't take care of you, right? But yeah, he
So he had a farm in Alabama. Or he worked on a farm.
Well, he had a farm. Yeah, he actually consulted like all throughout like the Southeast. But he had a farm that was here in Georgia, that was out in Stockbridge, Georgia, and he was there for several years. And then he had another farm that was out in Hancock County. And so he was out there in that area. And then the last farm that he had was actually in Ghana, West Africa, where it was like over like 10 acres that he was cultivating out there. And that was his ultimate goal, was to not only just grow food, but then actually have a educational piece where he actually would bring kids from the States over to where they can actually see what it's like to actually put your hands in the dirt again and actually to get back to the more traditional ways of actually growing your food, the same way that our ancestors did. Yeah, he actually learned how to farm and gardening techniques over in Ghana when he went the first time. And so, you know, over there, like people there still actually utilize the earth. They still actually grow their own food. And so he actually learned, you know, it wasn't one of those things he learned sitting in the classroom. He learned from people who were actually still doing it.
Right.
And so when he came back here to the States, like he didn't have a green thumb, he had like a green hand. That man could grow anything. When I say anything, not only just, you know, fruits and vegetables, but, you know, whether you're talking about, you know, even some of like the cash crops that like now they're starting to legalize here in the States, like he could show you like how you could actually maximize like the constituents of it just by having rich soil. So yeah, he was way ahead of his time in terms of understanding it. Like he actually even like maybe even understand like how do you actually even monetize it, where you don't have to actually be a capitalist, but like how to, you know, growing something as simple as tomatoes or like beans, how do you actually put that into like money for him? So like at his house, he had like a strip of grass on the side of like the driveway, and he actually had like a trellis there where he was growing like beans. And so he like, yeah, he was like, yeah, like this is gonna pay for like my electric bill for the year. He's like, I can harvest this. It costs this much for a bushel. When I go to the farmer's market, I sell this. I said I can get this many yields out of each one of these plants. And I had never thought about it like that, man. That you got 10 plants, and all 10 of those are gonna constantly give you beans 10 times over. And then you got the seeds to where next year you can make sure that the best ones, you can replant those seeds and actually get even a bigger yield. So yeah, he understood like not only the science of actually like agriculture, but he also understood like the financial side of it. Like how do you actually support yourself and be able to do what you need to do?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably the dopest thing of it, man.
Oh snap! Oh, it's gonna make noise. But
What's that?
no, I think a couple weeks or like a couple months ago at my physical therapy spot, like a woman came in with like, I think her family like, they like get their own eggs and stuff, and that made me think like, yeah, people just make their own eggs out of their chickens and sell it, and people will buy from them because it's natural.
Yeah. So imagine like if somebody actually had their own chickens. Like 2 years ago when like they were talking about the price of eggs was too high. But if you got your own chickens, it's like, yeah, it's too high for everybody else. Not for me, because I actually have my own chickens. I got my own vegetables. And now you don't have to worry about like how a market fluctuates up or down. It's because you're growing it yourself.
Or you always have the product or the thing that's going to make it.
Yeah. No,
Do you have animals too ever?
Yeah, he did. He had chickens, he had cows, all kinds of stuff on the farm. Like the cows naturally produce like the manure, so it actually helps in terms of enriching the soil. Like he had the chickens there, so he would sell like the eggs. He even had like bees at one point, where like he was selling the honey. So yeah, man, he was advanced with what he was doing, man.
That's fire, man. No, facts. Yeah. It's definitely leading the way.
Yeah, man. Like if you ever had the chance to go to his farm, like he would actually, like when you came there, it wasn't like you were on like a school field trip or you're at a museum.
I think I did one time.
You did get to go.
I think like for some reason, I got to talk to my old friends, or my friends from when I was younger, but cause I think I remember like we were like milking a cow or something actually.
That sound like him, man, because he's gonna make you touch it. You're gonna stick your hand in the dirt. Yeah. I want to say that he went to like some of like the independent schools, like maybe even Colombo, like back in the day, where like he would go and do different things. I know he used to go to like the daycare center when he went there. He actually even worked there for a short while, but yeah, man, he was major, man. Like he's one of those people that like when I like watching him move and groove, like I was like, yeah, this dude doing exactly what he came here to do, because he did it at such a high level, and he was a good teacher, man.
Right.
Like you never left like after having a conversation with him and didn't feel like you were smarter after talking to him.
You always learn something.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's fire, man. So my next question is really about like the processed foods, right? That's why I grabbed the Gatorade where I put it. Yeah, so right now we could just read some of these things, like you can see what you're familiar with on there. And like some for me is I'll see people like they'll try to be more healthy, so they'll drink a Coke Zero or Powerade Zero. And like me, I would do that, but like now it's like I might as well drink water or like find a different way to get electrolytes. You know, people say you use the pink Himalayan salt or whatever it is, because you might be drinking zero, but it still got dyes in it. And it's like, why am I, like when you really just stop and just take a deep breath and think, it's like, why are you drinking a dye? Like, what is that actually doing? That's not affecting the taste. That's like, it's so much stuff that we have and we consume that's not really benefited us at all. But you could read some of them out loud, or like stuff like Blue One.
No, you just hit it right on the head, because it's like if it's not adding benefit to the body, then it's got to be doing something else, right? And the body's got to use resources in order to get it out. And some stuff it doesn't get it all the way out, right? So then the question is, well, if it stays in the body, what is it doing to the body? But sports drinks, they actually started off with like a noble cause.
Promo too.
You said take it off the table.
You gotta hit me up first, man.
But yeah, a lot of like the sports drinks, like they actually started off way different than what they are, and the formulas are completely different than how they started off. Like the way that some of the initial like sports drinks started is that they would have athletes, and they noticed that when athletes sweat, looks like water, but then when you look at it under a microscope, they found out that it's not only just sweat, but there's certain
minerals,
like certain minerals. There's certain salts, and so the theory is that, well, if people are losing it, then you could put it back in. Right. And so it was something a little bit more organic, like the sea salt you were talking about, to put those nutrients back into the body because you're sweating it out. So like when somebody's sweating, the sweat, again, the body is so divinely designed that the sweat, one, helps to cool the body off, right? We're doing all this activity, the body heats up, so it uses the sweat in order to actually cool the body off. Like two, it uses that as an opportunity to push out some of the toxins in the body. Right. So whether we're talking about toxins that we put in or just kind of like toxins from just regular processes. So something, it's kind of like if you burn a fire, right? In order to cook your food, well, you're gonna have waste left over. You're gonna have ash, that type of thing. And so sometimes it can release it through the urine and the stool, but then other times it can release it through the pores. But then it also utilizes, in order to keep the ratios of like the nutrients right, because you're sweating out the water content, then it also has to change out like the nutrient content. Because having too much of something that's good for you is just as bad as having too much of something that's bad for you, right? All right. And so the body has to keep everything in a very narrow range, and so that's why it releases some of those nutrients. And so again, body's divinely designed, it's doing all of this stuff and we don't even know it. And so the least that we can do is make sure that we're eating earth foods in order to give it the stuff that it needs to continue to do it.
Facts.
Oh, yeah.
So we got the applesauce, you know what I'm saying? The coat. All right, from these three ingredients though, or from these three things, is there anything like you see in common? You know what I'm saying? Any ingredient you see?
Yeah.
Or this one though.
Well, the biggest thing, without even looking at it, I can already tell you that like the high fructose corn syrup is going to be the one commonality in it. Yeah. And it's misleading calling it high fructose corn syrup because it almost makes you think that it's natural because it comes from corn. But yeah, nothing can be more further from the truth. Like the high fructose corn syrup is as processed as it can get. Like to the point to where like if you were to even try to eat the corn that it actually comes from, it has very little nutritional value because it's been modified to be just that. Right. Not only that, how it actually hits the body isn't the same way that regular sugars, like if you had sugar cane, how it actually hits the body. And so it's completely different in terms of how it hits the body. So when we're talking about natural things that actually provide nutrients, and if it's not doing that, then it's doing something else. Right. Well, when it comes to the processed foods, yeah, that's something else. It, over a long period of time, can cause tons of issues.
Now this is like something where it's like, for me, it's like, I'll try to avoid this now. Like even it'll surprise me certain stuff I see has high fructose corn syrup in it, but it's like, now I feel like my main focus has been like protein and vegetables, fruits. Like I don't feel like, I feel like snack, I wouldn't say you should or shouldn't snack, but majority of our snacks that we eat when we want a little snack is like terrible. Like, I didn't even realize it, but like even the drinks, like I said, the Gatorade with all the dyes, the sodas with all the dyes, the high fructose corn syrup, the snacks, the chips, like just wanting a little snack is like really detrimental. And like now if I go to a store, I'm just gonna get like some fruits. So I know if I'm hungry, I'll have some like oranges or whatever it is, I'm trying to say. But
let me ask you this. Yeah. All right, so and you'll see the theme. So if we think about like our grandparents and great grandparents, you think they were snackers?
Probably not. They probably was eating meals, full meals. Yeah, facts.
So you got to ask yourself if they didn't necessarily snack all the time, eating snacks, then like where did that come from and who invented it to where now we feel like we've got to fill in the blanks in between meals? Because somebody's making money off of it.
That's interesting. And I want to say too, most of my life, like I was, trying to get bigger for sports. So I was always like, since I was 15, I started bulking. Like I remember I was eating like 5,000 calories a day. Like for real, I would make a protein shake, make pasta, I would meal prep. I was eating.
Oh, you was trying to get big.
I was trying to get big, and eventually it started working. Like I was, gaining muscle. But more recently, I've actually been eating less, and I've realized like there's like a certain like lust is not just like with love or like with relationships, and you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like you can also lust over food. You can also like overeat, and I learned the term like gluttony, like where you just like filling yourself up, but you don't actually need to eat. And like more recently, I've been eating less. Like you know what I'm trying to say. Like even in the morning, I'll do fasted cardio and just start my morning off. I won't eat. And normally I'm straight trying to put on weight, but like I feel way better eating less, and I'm realizing I still have energy to do stuff, but like I don't need to eat all this food.
That's
like,
real.
I think people overeat, and even snacking, like it's not really benefiting you.
Very much so.
I realized that.
No, it does. I said that the constant snacking, like that is what helps us get towards like the insulin resistance, the diabetes, because we never give the body a break and never allow like the blood glucose levels to drop. So you can imagine you eat, and before it actually drops, then you snacking. Before it drops, now you're eating another meal. And before it drops, you snacking again.
Right.
And so it never gets a chance to actually drop the way it needs to. And so we've got high levels of glucose in the blood, and so the body's constantly producing insulin. Over time, I said we stress out the pancreas, we stress out the other organs, and it turns into something else over time, right?
Right.
Yeah, not only that, I said, the way that our ancestors ate is there was feast and famine, meaning that we ate when their food was provided, and then there were times that you didn't eat. And the body's actually designed in terms of how it actually processes that during that famine time, it actually takes care of it eats like the leftover food that we have that is stored in terms of fat. Then it also, if it famine too long, it actually even starts to take care of like some of the old worn out cells, like some of the cancer cells. It actually takes care of a lot of those things during that famine time. But if we're not giving it time to actually take care of that stuff, because we're constantly eating, over time it actually turns into something else, so something more diabolical than just high blood glucose levels.
You can see also, I just realized you could probably see the red light, right? It's on.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and also a part of my podcast is kind of introducing different perspectives. Like I feel like I think about certain stuff like a way people don't think about it.
Yeah.
I think another aspect of this conversation is like, when people grow up struggling, when they get older and they get their own money, they get some more money, and they can always eat, they can always keep some snacks, always keep a fresh 6-pack of sodas, they can Uber eat some Wingstop late at night, they're gonna do it. So I think that's another part of it, because like people got the money to spend on food, so they always eating because they can, but it's actually not helping. It's not, well, I don't want to say it's not helping, but it's like, it feels good, but it's not the best, way to go about it, and always be eating.
No, I can understand that. I say when you finally get a little money, it's like, you do stuff that you wish you could have did when you didn't have money. So I'm with that.
Yeah, facts.
But yeah, that feast or famine, that's probably the biggest thing. And now, I said they talk about it. They don't necessarily call it feast or famine, but they talk about intermittent fasting, that type of thing, where you eat between a certain window and then you're fasting in a certain sense. Hence the reason that we call the first meal break fast. Because that's literally the first time that you're actually consuming, whether it's liquids or solids, because you've been asleep, for 8 hours.
You break your fast from the night.
Right. Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's one of those things that we got to get back to, like the old ways of doing things, instead of just doing things the way that everybody else is doing it, taking a step back and then ask like, okay, like how did our grandparents do it? How did our great grandparents do it? And that'll probably give us some ideas of maybe that, because some of the things that they were doing, they weren't doing it just out of necessity because they couldn't do it another way. Some of it is based off of, tried and true techniques to where they know that doing X, Y, and Z actually helps the body. And so I mentioned something like fasting on a regular basis. Like most people think of fasting from a religious or a spiritual standpoint, but also from giving the body time to actually do what it's actually designed to do. Like that's where the fasting comes in. And so the same thing with, consuming things, like, you can't consume yourself to death. It's like same way you couldn't consume and purchase stuff and buy stuff all the time. Like you're gonna run out of money, or you're gonna run out of, energy or place to put it. Well, the same thing is if you're actually consuming foods all the time, like sooner or later it's gonna come to a head to where you've actually put too much in the system for it to actually process it.
Yeah. Now, there's two things I want to say to that too, because like that's another part of, we're speaking on something that's a great point. Like, we made a great point. And people will probably understand it, but realistically, they won't implement it, or like, you know, maybe eat less, or, you know, not have snack as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything you said makes sense. Like, it really, like, I can't even deny none of the things you said. Like, it all makes sense. Not even just logically, but scientifically. Like,
Yeah.
But also, like, it's hard to have this conversation we're having without touching on obesity, because it's inevitable. Like, it's there. Like, you can't really ignore it. And someone like me, or like, you know, people with a higher metabolism, we can get away with eating whatever, and, you know, not, you know, blowing up. But obesity is real, and it's probably at an all-time high right now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like you said, kind of relating back into older times, you know, our grandparents were doing stuff a certain way, and now, like, the way we've been doing it obviously isn't working. We've been introducing more processed foods and more stuff, and it's a lot of, you know, obese people. And it's actually crazy. This just made me remember, because I remember when I came back to Dubai after 5 years, one of the first things I noticed was the obesity, and it wasn't even like a judging perspective. It's just like, I kind of like,
people were bigger.
I kind of like subconsciously noticed. I'm like, in America, it was like, that was like one of the first things I noticed coming back. And I'm like, like, speaking on this, like, that's like a real thing in our country right now.
No, it's overconsumption. I said some of it is emotional eating, because people have unresolved issues.
Gluttony too.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Because it's there, then you utilize it. And just because it's there don't mean that you gotta actually eat it, right?
Right.
So no, it's a lot of factors that go into, you know, why somebody would be obese, but, you know, a lot of it also is under our control, right? In terms of like how we actually consume, what we actually consume, quantities of what we actually consume. A lot of it is within our control, but again, having that conscious level of actually even understanding like why we even actually eat food, right? Like, most of us, if you ask that question, like, why do we eat food? Like, we assume we eat food because it tastes good, or because it's lunchtime, right?
Right.
But the ultimate goal of consumption of food is to provide nutrients to the body, right? And so now, like, that takes out the whether it tastes good, don't taste good, like, just because it's a certain time of the day. It's like, no, the goal is to provide nutrients, so that way the body continues to do what it's supposed to do. The body is basically a vehicle that's transporting the soul, and as we're going through, we need it in order to be able to accomplish the things that we came here to accomplish, right? But, you know, but if you think about it in terms of like how we're actually socialized, it's like, well, no, like, you eat breakfast, you eat lunch, you eat dinner. I said you eat snacks.
Late night snacks.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we never actually think about like the intent or why we actually even should be doing the thing that we're doing.
Right.
But it actually even extends into like recreational things, right? All right, yeah, the red light's on.
Yeah. No, what was I saying? It was
We were talking about the obesity.
Obesity, yeah. That's the point I was getting to. Okay, yep. So, it's on, right?
Yeah.
So, and I want to say first, you know, anybody, any weight, in like, because I don't want to come off as, how would you say, like what I'm about to say, I'm trying to be like to the point. I'm not like really like trying to be disrespectful. I'm just speaking like factually.
Yeah.
And like, everyone is beautiful regardless of what weight. I'm not really speaking from that perspective, but I feel like, in a way, like the way I kind of am, I feel like, would it be crazy to say that I feel like no one should be obese? And it's like, I've been around a lot of people, so I realize some people have serious health conditions. Some people are on medications that make them gain weight. But there's a lot of people who can control it, and they just, you know what I'm trying to say, they just don't make the best choices, which everyone's life is for themselves. Everyone lives for themselves. But I feel like, okay, maybe you weigh more, but obese, where it's like to a level where it's not even about you being big. It's like, no, like, medically, like health-wise, that's not a healthy weight. Like you're overweight. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't feel like it's crazy. Maybe some people do. I don't feel like it's crazy for me to say that. Like I don't feel like the people that can control being obese and where it's literally, you know, physically, healthily bad is like no one should be that way or at that point.
No, I'm following you.
And I think obviously people will have certain goals they go for. Some people will like be working towards the athletic build. Some people will just be working towards this, and then some people just have a general. They just want to be healthy. But I think like there's certain things that should be like non-negotiables for people. And also like just I'm always encouraging for people to like just have the body they want and have a healthy lifestyle. So like what would you say like to people that maybe do want to lose weight, like they are bigger right now, they want to lose weight? What would you say? Because obviously it's not even just eating too, it's also lifestyle, healthiness, and also what we talked on earlier is the mentality first. You know what I'm saying? You said what you can and can't do is right or something like that.
So whether you believe that you can or can't do it, you're right, no matter how it goes. But no, I understand exactly what you're articulating, because what we do know is that obesity is a risk factor for, you can fill in the blank, right, for any kind of health challenge, and especially for people who look like us.
Man, my bad to cut you off. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say it from a physical attractiveness standpoint, like that. Like, okay, if you're big, I'm not saying anything of that nature. I'm just saying like, damn, I'm blanking. But I'm really saying like health-wise, I feel like no one should be obese. Like if you're 300 pounds but you're healthy, you're fine, that's good. But I just feel like I don't want no one to be unhealthy, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like people are gonna live their lives, but I don't feel like anyone on the earth, like I don't feel like it makes sense to ever be that big. And obviously, you know, a lot of people just let themselves go and their mentality is just so far gone. But I think if anything, I would want to start a trend of more people just like, regardless of what, even if they know they're failing at it, they're like just trying to make steps in the right direction. Like that, the attempt, the effort is more important. Like we have all these bad trends, all these trends about negative violence, but I feel like these are certain stuff that need to trend more. Not shaming people for being obese, but like, okay, let's make a trend of people being healthier, making healthier decisions. Yeah, you know, saying living healthier lifestyles.
Now that is real. I said, and again, obesity is a risk factor for, again, you can fill in the blank for just about anything, whether you're talking heart disease on down. But I think too, and one of the reasons that I don't focus so much on like I'm completely against like the body shaming and everything else that you articulated. The bigger thing is like addiction is real, right? You can be addicted to a number of things. And especially when we're talking about like food additives in the processed and ultra processed foods, like at a certain point, like, yeah, it's a decision on the person, but then it's also a whole other thing when somebody has added something in order to make it, you know, more appealing, or actually, you know, you've hijacked like the neurology of a person to where now it's actually an addiction versus it actually just being I'm choosing to or choosing not to, right?
Let me ask you, because I know obviously in America especially, everything is commercialized. They're making, you know, these foods look appealing even if they're not actually healthy. But you're saying like there's actually things they're putting to make foods addictive?
Very much so. Very much so. So, okay,
I'll give you an example. Yeah.
I'll give you like one example that's like extremely common, and you can look this up on your own. So like MSG, you familiar with MSG?
I heard of that.
Yeah, people always use like the acronym, but never actually go into like the chemistry of it. But MSG is like a food enhancer to where it actually makes the food, you know, taste better. But then from a research standpoint, they know that it has addictive qualities, and they also know that it's a neurotoxin, meaning that it is a toxin to the nervous system. And so we were talking about the chiropractic care, making sure your nervous system is healthy. Like so much so that some people have sensitivities to it to where if they eat foods that have MSG in it, like it gives them headaches.
Wow.
It's like over 20 years ago, it was a big thing because a lot of like Chinese food were loaded with like MSG, and it was causing issues, especially for people who are extremely sensitive to it. But it is in just about everything. Like where you're talking about, processed foods like potato chips.
You saying it's everything?
Yep. There's certain like there's like a fast food restaurant that everybody loves, that everybody actually thinks is healthy, but not only do they have like MSG and other chemicals in the buns, like it's also in the breading on like the chicken.
Drop, man. You said
I won't do it because it serves no purpose.
You can't name drop, man.
Well, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the thing is, it isn't just that one restaurant. It is all of them. I'm just using them as an example. Like my focus is more so on like not what like other people are doing, is on what we need to do in order to change it, right? And that's the only reason why I don't do it, right? Because it's kind of like, instead of me talking about like why somebody did X, Y, and Z to me, like I can't control like what they're doing, but what I can control is like how I respond to it, and then what I do moving forward in terms of that situation. So when we're talking about like even health, like the bigger thing is it's like what am I doing with it? Because they can continue to make it, and people are gonna continue to eat it, that's fine. But like having the information and then doing something with it, like that's where the power is. Because like and the thing is, it isn't hard, because they make a chicken sandwich. Again, in the bun, they have MSG in it, and the breading of the chicken that's been fried, like it's got MSG in it. I said even in the liquid that they actually inject into the chicken, it's got that and other stuff in it to make it addictive.
But it doesn't say that on the ingredients.
Well, that's the thing. You can't even find it on the website anymore. Like there's an organization in the United States called, what is it? I can't remember the actual name. It was Moms for something. You know what? I'm gonna give it to you. But like they you got different like watch groups and consumer groups that actually, they're the ones that pull up the information, because people were taking their kids there in order to actually eat the food, and they assumed that it was healthy. Like they assumed that like the chicken that the kids were eating was organic. It was changed, and when it got changed, they made sure that they sounded the alarm so people were aware of what they're actually consuming.
Wow.
So goes back to like what you were talking about before, where people think that it is not sustainable or possible for them to actually, to actually grow their own food. It's like that is it's one thing to talk about what somebody is doing, but it's a whole other thing when you say, you know what, how about I actually raise my own chickens, and now I know that, they haven't been pumped with antibiotics, they don't actually put MSG in the food, they don't put a number of things in the food that are not beneficial for me. And that is where now we're actually talking about a shift in terms of like our consciousness and how we're looking to where we're actually being more solution oriented versus focusing on the problem and actually talking about what someone else is doing. And we see that in everything, right? Like race relations, everything, where people are like, oh, well, they did this or they're doing this. And then and you spend so much time and energy talking about what somebody else is doing versus, all right, so what do we need to do in order to not be in the position that we're in? Or like, what do we need to do in order to make sure that you are in a stronger position to where somebody could not do that type of thing to you? And so that is where like always just checking like what your focus is on. Is the focus on what somebody else is doing, or is it focused on the problem, or is our focus on actually a solution and actually figuring out like how do we actually self-improve ourselves? How do we actually move past where this is? So now what somebody else is doing don't even matter, because you've already told yourself like this is the direction we're doing, this is how we're going to solve this problem, to where now everybody that comes in contact with you, like you're going to rub off on them because they're going to see what you're doing. And now it's hard to say like, well, you can't grow your own vegetables or you can't grow your own chicken because they seeing you do it, right? So now you are literally a shining example or a light to where people can actually see it.
You gotta do it to where it's undeniable, like the podcast.
There you go. I like how you did that. That is the goal. I said having a consciousness about where you're actually going with it, because you can't talk about self-determination if you're not feeding yourself, you're not clothing yourself, you're not housing yourself. Like at a certain point, it's just talk, right?
Right.
And so that's where like now when you actually start talking about building a nation, you're talking about building families, you're talking about building communities. Well, you can't talk about that if you ain't feeding yourself and you're not giving people the nutrients they need, right? Because if the body is not healthy, then the mind's not healthy, and vice versa. And so that's where again, it's bigger than just eating junk food or eating processed food. No, if you're really serious about what you say you are, then everything, if somebody were to watch you move, they should be able to tell that you are actually moving in a certain direction. Like there should be evidence of that mission that you're actually accomplishing.
All right.
And so, yeah, that is, and nobody's perfect, right? Like nobody is eating 100% this or doing 100% that, but it's all about like the pursuit or moving in that direction. Like that is where, like for me, where the rubber meets the road, right? If somebody is walking daily, they're going to the gym daily, like they're going to see a chiropractor, like they're actually, part of like, groups that are focused on making sure that you're health conscious and you're making better decisions. Mm-hmm. Like are you actually taking like quality supplements that are more natural versus synthetic? Like you are moving in that direction to where a year from now, you're completely different a year from now from where you are today, right? Mm-hmm. And then a year from that, you're even better off. And so like having that consciousness of constantly improving yourself, constantly moving towards being healthier. Now when you're having a conversation about obesity, well, if you're actually moving in those directions where the things that you're consuming from a food standpoint are healthier choices, like the supplements you're taking are healthier choices, like you're doing physical activity, like now it isn't so much about like the obesity, it's that now you're actually taking care of the obesity because you're making smarter and healthier decisions, right? Because we're more solution oriented versus just focusing on the problem.
Exactly. I gotta ask you, like, for someone who, cause even myself, man, I love some Zaxby's, some good food, man.
That sauce be hitting though. That's what it is.
Zax sauce, man. Come on, dog. So, like late night, you know what I'm saying? Some nights, you just don't feel like cooking. You want to order some little DoorDash, Uber Eats. What would you say is a solution for that? Because, hold on, make sure we good. Yeah, because like, a lot of times that's just very common. Like it's going to be late, you're not going to feel like cooking, but like sometimes you're just going to be eating a bunch of stuff you shouldn't be eating late night. So what do you think people should do instead? And obviously most people are still going to get their Uber Eats and all that, but anyone who actually wants to, find a better solution.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with like that convenience, right? Of somebody being at, when you already got 20 things on your plate and only got time to do 10, that convenience comes in handy to where instead of you having to go out and get it, somebody brings it to you. Yeah. So like that isn't.
Or having to cook.
There you go, or having to cook, right? Yeah. So it's cool. I said the bigger thing is, like I said, overarching, like what is your consciousness and how do you see yourself? Like how do you see like diet playing into you actually being the person that you want to be, right? And so
let me ask you that. Do you think some people are like, I can be who I want to be regardless of how I eat? Like I could be the most, nasty or like nasty feeling, out of shape person, but it doesn't matter.
Well, so you've asked me like, the thing is that like there has to be like congruency between like thought and deed, right? Mm-hmm. And so like we are like a whole person. So no matter what you're doing, like you take your whole self into it. And so how you treat the body affects like how the mind works, and how the mind works affects how the body functions. Mm-hmm. Like from a like academic standpoint, they refer to it as psychosomatic, meaning psycho meaning the mind, somatic meaning the body. And so if we are not giving the body the stuff that it needs, it has a direct effect, because how is the body going to make the hormones that it needs to keep things balanced if we're not giving it the nutrients it needs? Right. But we are giving it a bunch of chemicals and other stuff that 20 years ago, 50 years ago didn't even exist, right? Mm. And so the body's got to figure out not only how to get rid of it, but then it's also got to combat like any kind of side effects of us actually consuming that stuff on a regular basis. And so, you can have goals and aspirations, but they can't be divorced from you actually taking care of the vehicle that's actually going to get you there. Because ultimately, if you don't take care of the vehicle, you're not going to make it to your destination, right? Right. And that you're going, even if your goal is to make as much money as possible, at a certain point, you're going to end up spending majority of that in order to maintain your health, because you're not going to be able to get to your destination in the way that you're supposed to.
People think they getting by off of not. They getting by for now, but eventually it's going to catch up.
There you go. You either pay now or you're going to pay later. And that's the same thing with discipline, right? Like you either going to work out now and you're gonna see the effects, or I said you don't do it now, you're gonna pay either now or later, one or the other. Like you eat the junk food now, you're gonna see the effects, or you eat the healthy food now, you're gonna see the effects. So one or the other. Like there's gonna be pain associated with either way, right? Like the pain of not being able to eat that extra slice of cake, or the pain of I'm eating the junk food and now it's gonna do something later on down the line. So it's always a cost associated, it's always pain associated with it, and you gotta decide like how.
Like a bag of chips, you know, like why do you think a bag of chips that would just probably have, you know, potato chips, you know, get cooked, oil, whatever, have, you know, 40 different ingredients on it?
Yeah, well, I said it's got to do a lot with, we talked about like capitalism and business, right? A lot of the things that you do is that it's got to be able to stay on a shelf long term and not go rancid or go bad. And so a lot of the chemicals are added for that, but then also because a lot of like synthetic or unnatural things are used, like you've got to cover up the taste in order for it to make it palatable for people. Mm-hmm. And so it's that plus the addictive aspect, to where when you add certain chemicals to it, you have to have a unique taste, because your chips can't taste like somebody else's chips, right? Potatoes are potatoes. So yours got to have a unique formula, just like somebody else's has to have a unique formula. And so a lot of that is just that. It isn't so much probably lower down on the list factoring in like the health aspect. Is it going to have any long-term effects? That's probably on the bottom of the list, but at the top of the list is profitability, right? Like how can I make this the cheapest, and how can I actually get this to stay on the shelf the longest in order to improve like the bottom line? So that's at the top of the list in terms of the health, and how and any effects to you is at the bottom of the list, because in a capitalist society it's always about the capital.
All right.
And some companies actually have like a duty to actually make sure that they make a profit for whoever the shareholders are. So if you are a publicly traded company, it is your job, it is your duty to make sure that the company is profitable. Mm-hmm. Because people have invested money in it, and so your goal is to make sure that the company is profitable. So if we have to remove something that is natural that costs, you know, this amount, and you can actually cut that amount in half by using something else, but there it goes.
Mm-hmm. And moving forward, like a lot of people will try healthier alternatives, and then sometimes they'll learn like something they think is healthier isn't healthier. So what do you think are ways to know, like, or things to look out for that can ensure that what you're eating is healthy?
Yeah, so that's part of the journey, right? Where you learn it as you go. Some things you'll know completely, other things you learn by doing. And so bigger thing is appreciating the journey and always trying to learn and become a better person through research, getting new information, but then also being around people that are already health conscious, right? You can cut down on the learning curve. You don't have to learn it all to make or eating as something that you thought was healthy, but then you come to find out it's not, because if you're around healthy people, like they've already made those mistakes, right? So they're like, no, I thought this was good, but this is where I'm at. And so now that cuts down. That's the reason why having mentors is important. That's the reason why like being around people who are already health conscious and putting yourself in spaces to where you can actually elevate yourself. So that's probably the easiest thing. But again, even asking yourself questions, like when you look at something and it's got 20 ingredients and you can only pronounce 2 of the 20, mm-hmm. That's probably a red flag, right?
Right.
Yeah, because most things, I said, if you've got more than a handful of ingredients, then we're talking about something else. It's definitely processed or ultra processed, and it's not natural. Because if you can make a cake with, you know, flour, eggs, water, vanilla extract, mm-hmm. that's less than 5 ingredients. So if you actually see a cake and it's got 15 or 50 ingredients, we know it's got stuff in it that's probably not to our benefit, right?
All right. And about sleep, so like we didn't touch on sleep at all. Is there any main things to focus on when it comes to sleep? Because obviously I want to add, like, you know, me and hopefully a lot of other people on their grind. So, you know, a lot of times you can lose sleep, you trying to get to it.
Yeah, well, like I'll give you the example of like a cell phone, right? It don't matter how good the cell phone is. If you're not charging it, I said it's not going to work properly. And if you're constantly not charging it, actually even affects the battery and how the battery actually charges to 100%, right? And so the same thing with the human body. It's designed that we operate 2/3 of the time or our waking state, and then we sleep for 1/3, right? So if we're talking 24 hours, we should be sleep about 8 hours of those 24, and then we're active the other 16. But if we're actually extending it and we're not actually giving the body the time that it needs, I said to rest and recharge, then we're going to end up with some issues, right? In terms of throwing off the battery and throwing off the body. When it comes to like sleep is one of those things that it don't even require much from you. You just got to unplug and allow the body to recharge, right? It knows exactly what to do. But the quality of the sleep and then the quantity of the sleep is important. Like we know from a quantity standpoint, we're supposed to get around that 8 hours a night. And it should be uninterrupted, right? Like you can't like go to sleep for 3 or 4 hours, go party, and then come back and then sleep, sleep for another few hours. No, it should be uninterrupted, just like when you charge your phone up. If you charge it up uninterrupted, it gets to 100% a lot faster than you trying to use it while it's charging.
Exactly.
Or you take it off and then you use it and then try to plug it back up. So it should be those 8 uninterrupted hours.
And people, as well as me, like, have problems falling asleep. You know what can cause that? Because I even like bought melatonin and certain stuff. Like, some nights it's just hard to fall asleep.
Yeah, and it's got to do with a few things, that like in terms of natural body rhythms being off, but then also some people are wired a little differently, right? Some people, they can lay down, as soon as their head hits the pillow, they're out. Mm-hmm. Other people, because of how their body is actually put together, it takes a minute in order for them to get going. And knowing yourself, I say, helps out tremendously. Like if you know that is, then during the daytime, you should be doing certain things in order to actually make sure that the body is in rhythm. It's actually balanced the way it's supposed to. So I'll give you a simple example. Like when you work out, what it does is it increases like the energy levels and has you more alert, right? Mm-hmm. So ideally, if you want to be more alert, then we probably should work out earlier part of the day versus the latter part of the day. If you work out in the earlier part of the day, there's a whole bunch of processes, even from a hormonal standpoint, that it's like a cascade effect to where we're alert during the daytime, and then by the evening time, the energy levels start to drop. So by the time you lay down, you're there.
Right.
But if I'm working out at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and it shoots the energy levels up, well, we may just have issues going to sleep, right? Because we're doing things out of rhythm in terms of how the body is actually designed to actually do it. But yeah, the quantity of sleep in terms of the amount of hours, but then the quality of it. So making sure that when we are asleep, that we're setting up our environment to be conducive to actually sleeping. So if I've got TV on, like I'm on my phone where we're being stimulated from the phone, I've got bright lights on, like all of that stuff is signaling to the body that I should be awake and alert, versus actually getting ready to actually go to sleep, be sedated, that type of thing. And so you make sure everything in your environment is actually moving you in that direction. But it actually works the same way, right? Like if you were saying that you want to be a successful businessman, but everything in your environment is having you do something else, right, and then people are wondering why it's not working, right? It's because everything in your environment has to be moving you in that direction. And if anything else is having you go left when you should be going right, it's going to cause issues.
You think red lights are good too? I heard something about red light. Red
light therapy, it is, but not so much for sleep. Okay. The biggest thing is that you want to have something that is relaxing to the nervous system. So we're kind of going back to the chiropractic aspect, right? So like when we're talking about lighting, would you say like dim lights or no lights versus bright lights? Which one would be more common to the nervous system?
More calming?
Mm-hmm.
No lights.
Yep, or dim lights, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about even scents, right? There's certain scents that are more common to the system versus stimulating to the system. So if you were trying to get yourself to go to sleep, would you have like common scents like lavender, chamomile, or would you have something that's more stimulating that smells like some wings just got fried? So I don't know. I'm making up stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So you see where I'm going with it, right? Yeah. Everything that in your environment should. So we're talking about the lighting, we're talking about the smells, like even in terms of the sounds, right? Mm-hmm. Like some people, they utilize like white noise, they utilize like rain sounds, the whole nine. Like it should be more calming music than the other.
Okay.
Like in terms of prior to going to bed, like maybe taking a hot shower would be a lot more would be more relaxing to the body, right? It increases the circulation and it starts to get you there. maybe even cutting off like electronics at a certain time to where we're not constantly stimulating the brain to where we're actually telling it to be alert versus it actually being more sedated and actually helping us go to sleep. And so, you know, versus being like doom scrolling on a phone, maybe like reading a book, to where something that is nice and relaxing is actually moving you in the direction of going to sleep versus doing something else. And so that's probably the easiest thing, is making sure that your environment is conducive to what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's some of the things I've already heard too, and I think people will like start and they'll try, and then like at first it's not working, so they'll just give it up. But like every time I see, like I actually, like if I'm taking a hot shower at night, I turn the lights off, turn my phone off, read a book, eventually I'll fall asleep. I think just people are like so used to like being stimulated and having like so much going on
that's probably the biggest thing, is that stimulation. And you got to be patient with yourself, right? Like you didn't get out of balance overnight, so you're not going to get back into balance overnight.
It takes time.
There you go. And so you give yourself, you got to be consistent with it, where you don't just do it Monday, Tuesday, and then you out and about on Wednesday, you up late, and then Thursday you're like, man, why am I having trouble sleeping? You know, it's got to be consistent, and then over time, the body learns the rhythms, and then you'll notice it's kind of like when you were a kid. You got up at the same time to go to school, and sometimes even if the alarm didn't go off, the body woke up because it is in a certain rhythm, right?
Exactly. So I got a game to play before I ask the last question. So I'm just going to name a couple foods, and then you just tell me green light, yellow light, or red light.
All right, let's go for it.
First one, we got energy drinks.
I'm going to say that is a red light.
Red light, okay.
Because naturally, I said it should be, the body should energize itself, right? If we need a stimulant, something's wrong, something's not right.
What would you say about like honey or something though? Like if you need some energy, that's fine.
Yeah, you can take that.
All right, protein bars.
I'm going to say yellow light.
Yellow light, so.
Yeah. So that is going back into our topic where we're talking about snacking. And if you listen, that's everybody tells you need protein, protein, protein. And I don't know if that's necessarily how it actually works, but that's a whole other conversation in itself.
So you would think people should get protein more from like a full meal than a protein bar? Okay.
Because you got to look at the source of like what's the quality and what's the source of that protein, right?
In the bars.
Then even asking the question of what exactly is protein, like what does it come from, and can you, like for instance, well, I'll actually even we'll detour for a quick second. Like proteins, right, come from amino acids, right? Is it possible to get amino acids from other sources other than eating manufactured protein bars? And then you can actually eat foods that are high in amino acids, like the earthbound foods, and the body takes those amino acids, like Legos, puts them together and makes protein. So you don't actually have to eat protein in order to build protein in the body.
All right. Okay. All right. We got cereal.
Cereal, that is a red flag.
Red. It's a red flag on the plate.
Yeah, because what comes with the cereal?
A whole bunch of sugars, added stuff.
The sugar, the added stuff, cow's milk.
Artificial, yeah.
There you go. All the food coloring. Yeah.
Hey, man, them Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh, yeah. That used to be one of my favorites, man.
Oh, man. All right, we got granola.
I'm going to say that's a yellow flag.
Yellow flag?
Yeah.
I ain't got no green flags yet. Or fruit juice.
Fruit juice, we're going to say that's the yellow flag. Now, fruit, that's a green flag, right? Yeah, because fruit and fruit juice ain't the same, right?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Nah. I mean, obviously you got 100% juice, but a lot of times most juices got
100% juice, is that the same thing? So say if you had 100% orange juice, is that the same thing as eating an orange?
Nah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sports drinks, Gatorade, stuff like that.
Yeah, those are going to go in the yellow to red category.
All right. Soda.
Now, what you think that goes in?
All right, next one. All right, fast food.
Fast food, we're gonna put that in. The yellow category.
So not red.
Yeah, that'll be yellow because you actually got some restaurants that are somewhat healthy.
Okay. Frozen meals.
We're gonna say yellow because you actually got healthy foods. Like you can actually go to, grocery store and you can get frozen vegetables. So we're not gonna say all of it is bad, right?
Yeah. Okay. Chips.
I'm gonna say that is yellow because we overconsume certain snack foods.
Yeah,
especially when we're talking about the carbohydrates. Yeah, it's causing us more issues than anything.
Sodium too, right? From chips. Yeah.
I'm not even opposed to the sodium. It's more so like the extra carbohydrates, and again, blood glucose levels that's causing us issues.
Don't that lead to like your blood pressure being messed up sometimes too?
With the body being out of balance, definitely.
All right, deli meat.
Deli meat, oh, that is definitely a red, man.
It's a red?
Yeah, man. Yeah, deli meat, deli meat and like packaged meats like sausage, hot dogs, all of that has been classified as a carcinogen. And that ain't me talking. That's literally the World Health Organization has classified it as a carcinogen, meaning that consuming that on a regular basis increases your risk of cancer, CA, that type of thing.
Dang, them public subs, man.
Yeah, man, all of it.
Man, them pub subs.
But look it up. Just type in is deli meat, carcinogen deli meat, and then it's gonna pop up. So all the info is there. Yeah,
them pub subs, man. Oh man, that's terrible news, bro. All right, we got white bread.
White bread, that is. I'm gonna go with that being a red, especially knowing like how it contributes to like insulin resistance. I'm gonna say red. Yeah, you can actually live your whole life and never consume bread, and you'll be okay.
Really? Okay. Flavored yogurt.
Flavored yogurt, I am gonna go with that's probably in the red to yellow category.
So like, what yogurt would be acceptable? Like natural Greek yogurt?
Yeah, I said if it's organic, it's natural. You actually know where they're actually sourcing like the dairy products to even make it. Yeah.
Okay. Breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with red.
Can't go no bacon, egg, and cheese. No, what? Croissant.
I'm not saying that people can't, but you asked me and I'm saying
cheese.
It. Okay, so you're saying like a bacon, egg, and cheese, right? All right, so
let's say on
eggs are good. Cheese is good.
What bread would we say it's on, like croissant or something?
Yeah. What kind of bread would that be? That'd be white bread. What would that be?
What are they most of the time? The croissants. Is that white bread?
Yeah, we're gonna call it white bread. And you just asked me about white bread, so
yeah.
Like we've been duped in terms of breakfast, man. I said them telling us that it's the most important meal of the day, which for some reason, because they said important, we meant eat a lot. I don't know how we made that connection between you need to eat a whole bunch, because what they mean is that it is just like we talked about before, break fast, that when you do break your fast, whatever that meal is that you break it with is important.
Exactly.
And then it probably should be something healthy, right? Not something that is been fried on a skillet, right?
That's real, because like I said, I usually won't eat like first couple hours I'm awake.
Yeah,
and
so breakfast don't necessarily mean in the morning time. It just means whatever meal you eat first.
Wake up,
yeah, that is important.
And
then the quality of that food that you eat that time is extremely important.
Because even now, I won't eat the first couple of hours I wake up, and then I'll eat like some fruit or something, and I'll be feeling way better, like feeling lighter.
Yeah, it's hard for me to eat like in the early AM hours. I feel like sluggish, heavy the rest of the day.
Facts.
Yeah, it's got to be later on, like 10 and on, if I'm gonna start eating food.
That's facts. All right, we got candy. Yeah, all right.
I'm not an extremist when it comes to like food choices, but it's like you could go your whole life and never eat candy and you'll be all right.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Because if it's not adding quality nutrients to the body, it's doing something else.
Yeah, I do like Snickers though, but see, I feel like some people
occasionally, no problem, but if it's a daily habit, we setting ourselves up.
I feel like some people say, okay, you can get like pure dark chocolate, but it don't hit the same. It don't be.
No. Yeah. Most people never had like pure chocolate unless they're outside of the States. Yeah, it's extremely bitter.
Yeah. All right, you got protein shakes.
I'm gonna say that's a yellow.
Yellow? Not red though.
That's another one we've been duped on in terms of protein. Because the question is, where is this protein coming from? And you don't have to eat protein in order for the body to build protein.
Wait, how are you gonna get it then if you don't eat it?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking.
No, that's a real question. And just for time's sake, we won't go into it. But say, for instance, like you need more muscle. Like you don't have to eat muscle in order to get muscle, right? All right, so then you don't have to eat protein in order to get protein. Like if somebody was vegetarian and they didn't eat meat, meaning they didn't eat muscle, there you go. So they don't eat any meat, but they can still build meat in terms of muscle in the body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we got restaurant salads.
Restaurant salads, that's green to yellow.
Okay, we got a green. Okay, we got a green finally.
Because we're talking about sourcing it too, right?
Yeah.
Because we just seen in the news that you get contamination of it, and you got to know where it's coming from. Because if it was, say for instance, it was grown outside of the United States, they may have different standards in terms of what is allowed into the soil, like how they're even irrigating the soil.
Okay. We got peanut butter.
Ah, that is a red. Yeah.
Man, really?
Yeah, man. Look up aflatoxin. I won't actually go deep in it. Aflatoxin.
How you spell that?
AFLA. No, I spelled it. Yeah, AFLA toxin.
Okay. Aflatoxin and peanuts, aflatoxin poison, and aflatoxin symptoms. Jeez.
Yeah. I used to love a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Man, I'm about to say, man. Oh, man. Especially when you're trying to put on weight, man. That come in clutch.
Man, that was my go-to. Where I was hungry but not starving. Oh.
Peanut butter? That's red? Oh.
That's red, yeah. Well, you look it up and you actually see like what it is and then like the possible effects on the body.
So you don't eat it no more?
No.
What? Okay. Now I'm going to do my research. Okay. That's crazy. All right, last one, artificial sweeteners.
Oh, that is definitely a red. Like that's dark red.
Yeah.
And the artificial sweeteners, I said, one, they make a lot of people gain weight. Two, a lot of them are neurotoxins, meaning that they are toxic to the nervous system. We just talked about the nervous system controls everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a no-no.
Briefly, because when real briefly, I think about most people probably think about all the ways they can get hurt and injured, but we don't think about nervous system. And it's there's so many ways stuff can go wrong, especially with nerves. If you can have nerve damage, it can change your life forever. Can you kind of briefly speak on I guess ways your nerves can get affected or stuff?
Well, okay. So we'll talk about it just from even more simple insult to the nervous system, right? So part of the reason you play basketball, right? And so you working out and you training because you training for that specific sport, but really what you're doing is you're training the nervous system, right? I said you're working on your handles, and the more and more you do it, your nervous system is learning and it is fine tuning what you're doing in terms of fine motor skills, the whole nine.
Yeah.
But then we'll go and eat something that is a neurotoxin, and now we're undoing all those hours that we just did training.
Wow. So
the dietary part is extremely important. They talked about, and I don't even know in terms of specifics, but they talked about LeBron spends over $1 million on his body. He's got a personal chef. Well, the reason they do that is because they're very clear that what you put into the system, you get out of it, right? Now, so you can see a direct correlation between putting quality food into the body and then a reduction in terms of injuries. Nothing prevents it, right? Because all sports are abnormal movement of the body, and inevitably we're going to have some type of issue with it. But what you actually put into the body affects the output, right? It's kind of like if you put trash in, you get trash out. Exactly. And if you put in quality in, then you get quality out of the tissues, right? So when we're talking about the protein, what is the quality of the protein? Are we just talking whey protein? What are we talking about? Because there's tons of ways to get amino acids and to get protein. So the quality of what you're actually putting in, that is huge. But if you're just giving people cheap, isolates that they're calling protein, but ain't really protein, and people think that they're eating a bunch of protein, can lead to different issues.
No, I just learned, so I didn't know it was connected with the nervous system like that.
Okay,
I think a lot of times when people hear about all these new science doctors and these foods and these professionals, they just think it's a whole bunch of BS. But they actually, that's probably why LeBron is. It's not even just the training, but the way he's fueling himself.
Takes very good care of his body, right? From a training standpoint, a recovery standpoint, putting quality stuff into it, the nutritional part.
Even your brain could be foggy too, right? His thinking is probably even more clear because of the way he.
There you go.
Yeah, that's okay.
There you go.
All right.
So now I said if you're constantly putting quality stuff in, then the one time that you eat cookies or the one time you eat cake, it doesn't have the same effect versus you eating it all the time.
Exactly. All right, so I'm getting ready for the last question. Getting ready to wrap it up.
All right, let's go for it.
I want to introduce a new thing to my podcast. It's called the Undeniable Podcast. So I want to ask you, what's one thing about our world that you think is undeniable? Like, what's one undeniable truth about our world? It could be about anything that you might hear people say or whatever.
The one undeniable thing that I think about our world and people in general is that we are stronger together than we are separated. And so we've been talking about food, we've been talking about health. And so instead of people trying to figure it out on their own or trying to cook food on their own, when you've got family and friends and everybody is working together, you can learn more together. I said you can also get more done together. So yeah, that is probably the biggest thing, is that we are a lot stronger in groups. Hence the reason why families are built the way that they are, communities, neighborhoods are built the way that they are, because when you've got a neighborhood that's working together, they can get stuff done. And vice versa, when you've got neighborhoods or communities that are not working together, yeah, something else happens.
I'm gonna add a little to that and ask you a little other question. But like, obviously you see, like, when people are like having a lot of influence or control or a lot of money, like a group like the Jews or something, they're usually like a big family together that, is moving with a purpose. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like, you can't ignore or deny that fact that a lot of the people that are actually getting stuff done are big families that are together.
Very much so.
The question I'll ask you then is, why do you think a lot of times when people try to start to do stuff together, it gets messed up and then people fall out and stuff? I think that's what happens a lot of time.
Well, you got trial and error, right? And you got to be committed to the process, and then committed to the ultimate goal. So for better or for worse, if the goal is for us to eat better or for us to be stronger together, then yeah, you're gonna have hiccups along the way. And so we got to be made of stronger stuff, to where just because something didn't work out one time, it's like you forget about the other 10 times that it did work.
All right.
And so when you're committed to like something bigger than yourself, a bigger goal, I said it's a lot easier that even when you have the hiccups, like you can continue to move towards whatever that goal is. And so again, families have issues, right? But they understand that we family ultimately, and our goal is that I have a vested interest in you being the best version of yourself, and you have a vested interest in me being the best, in myself and everybody involved in the group. And so when you see it that way, then it's a lot easier to, even if you have a hiccup, to push through it, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that is probably the biggest thing, to where you don't, if you have one bad experience at a black establishment, you don't go, oh man, all black businesses, or oh man, all these people do this. Like, no, that is one situation, and that you continue to move towards it. And so yeah, it's got to be bigger than that. It's got to be cooperative, like consciousness, cooperative economics, and cooperative movement. Because even a flashlight, if you've got 3 batteries in there, if one is turned the other way, the flashlight don't work, right?
Exactly.
So everybody got to be moving in the same direction.
Yeah. No, we speak about people cooperating, especially African American people. I think somehow it's so common for them to fall out or stuff to get messed up. I think trying to figure out how to prevent that or sustain regardless is like what should be focused on. Because I think we can start, we can come up with ideas, but something always ends up happening eventually, and it's messed up. Yeah,
well, again, we gotta look back and see, like, has there ever been a time that we were able to work together? And so instead of looking at current situations and assuming how people are now, that we've always been that way, That is not the case. If we actually know our history and know the things that like our people accomplished since they've been here in North America and on this side of the water, and then on the other side of the water, when you go back to the continent, that couldn't have been true, right? Exactly. They couldn't have had the massive civilizations. Like you couldn't have had like the towns that you had in the community. You couldn't have had like the black on like bus lines, that type of thing, if it wasn't that. So we can't get so caught up and have like a recency bias because we see some of the things now and assume that it's always been that way. And not only that, sometimes when people tell you something, you got to actually make sure that it's true. When somebody tells you that, oh, well, these people can't work together, like, okay, based off of what? Like, are you basing it off like this current situation, or has it always been that way? And if it hasn't, now you've got to actually trace the roots back and figure out like, well, what happened that got that to the point to where something that was working is not working now. Mm-hmm. And that takes work, and that also takes the people working together and being committed to the process, or being committed to something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. So like removing the self and knowing that like we are all part of a community. None of us got here together, not got here by ourselves. And I mean, even down to us being born, it took two individuals to come together in order to create the one, right? Exactly. And so when you know that, I said, then it's a lot easier for us to actually accomplish things. And sometimes you got to just do it, right? You got to just go ahead and start and go ahead and grow something at your house. So that way you know that what people said and what's actually possible is not it. Because if you tell yourself you can do it, you can. If you tell yourself you can't, then you can't.
Right. And I agree with what he's saying, because one thing I've seen, with my life experience is a lot of times when you look back in history, there are certain trends that keep going. History does repeat itself. So when you keep going back to looking at the roots, a lot of times like we can see how stuff is gonna go if we just pay attention to how it went before.
Very much so. Mm-hmm. So yeah, always looking back, I said that'll always give you better insight, because especially if you go back and talk to family members, it's like, who else got your vested interest in mind other than the people that are connected to you by blood?
It's facts, man. Well, this is definitely gonna be, this was definitely a long one. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that stayed the whole way through, I appreciate you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, man. We got to do it again.
Conversation, man. Dr. Kenya Edwards, man. Emphasis on the doctor, man.
Yeah, man.
Great episode, man. You want to say anything? Shout out to anybody?
Now, man, just make sure that you're paying attention to the Undeniable podcast, because I know you're going to have even more probably guests better than myself, because I've looked at the other ones, man. They were very good conversations, man. It's much needed.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That wraps it up, man. We out right here, man. Hope y'all have a good one. Y'all, y'all like the video, subscribe, share, comment, all that. We out of here.
All right.
Yes, sir.